Lions turn things the voice of the Tar Heels, and you're listening to your flagship station for Tar Heel sports. 97.9 The Hill, WCHL, Chapel Hill.
Somewhere between the tailgate smoke and the sound of shoulder pads cracking in Chapel Hill, there's a feeling. You know it. You felt it. That feeling in the air. Right before kickoff. That gut-level energy that says, we're Carolina, and we're built different. This ain't just Saturdays in the South. This is history. This is Kenan Stadium. This is Bill Belichick with a plan and a Tar Heel team with a grudge. You want smoke? Good, because we brought the whole damn fire. With Tommy Ashley, Joey Powell, and people who live and breathe Tar Heel football. Buckle up, y'all. It's game time. This is Inside Carolina Live.
Last week wasn't pretty, but it was enough. Carolina walked out bruised, scraped, and somehow still standing. And today they head to Winston-Salem to face a Wake Forest team that looks an awful lot like them. Flawed, stubborn, and dangerous if you let them hang around. Today's not about style. It ain't about guts. But this is a road game in November, and there is zero margin for excuses. I'm Joey Powell. Edmund Jackson, you know him as E.J. Wilson. This is Inside Carolina Live, brought to you by Johnny T-Shirt. Earl, how the heck are you, man?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing? We're on a win streak. Nothing to complain about, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's North Carolina is all of a sudden staring a potential for a bowl bid that has a faint pulse.
It has a pretty good pulse. I mean, if you'd asked me a month and a half ago if there's even a mathematical possibility that we'd be here, I would have told you no. But here we are, man. So I'm excited to get into it today.
Yeah, it's crazy. You know, North Carolina saw a game last week that they needed to win. And what we've learned about Bill Belichick is that his style coming from the NFL to college about just doing enough to have more points than your opponent absolutely transfers.
Oh, yeah.
Because he went up against a Stanford team last week that it looked in the fourth quarter like he just decided, okay, we're ahead now. They went up 20-3. We're going to park the bus, and we're going to do just enough to get out of here with more points than Stanford has. And if you're looking for style points, you're not going to get any from last week. But as we've talked about before, when you're a team that started the season the way this one did, all that matters is that final score, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I think no matter where you are as a team, I think that's the only thing that matters. I mean, we started talking about style points in football back in the BCS days where a lot of teams were going undefeated, and it's really mattered how you won, how many points you had, how efficient you looked. But in today's nature with the transfer portal and the NIL, it's made a lot of teams a lot more competitive. So I think the talent level for most places, kind of not speaking about Carolina in this particular season, but most places it's kind of evening out. So those big wins and those dominating performances are going to be, I won't say few and far between, but they're not going to necessarily be the standard for a team for it to be said that a team had an excellent season.
Also, I saw a team last week that, again, relies on defense. And I felt like you'd probably come in here pantsless today because this is going to be a defensive game.
Yes, it is.
If there ever has been one.
Yes.
I'm sitting here thinking about, North Carolina's offense recently has absolutely been hideous, right? I mean, there's been times where you felt like Gio Lopez couldn't throw a birthday party.
Yeah.
And now he's seemingly been the first quarter last week was basically, they had 7 more yards than you and I did.
Exactly.
It was gross. But I think what you've seen when you look at an entire game now is he's consistently mid.
Yeah.
But I think if the defense continues to do what they've been doing, you might be able to win with that. And as we look towards today, and we'll get into Wake Forest in just a little bit, how replicatable is replicable? My word brain ain't working today.
You're doing good.
How replicable is a game plan like that where your defense is just getting you turnovers, holding them to no points or few points, and then your offense is plugging away until they hit one. Like how long do you think North Carolina can carry with that, or is that just who they are at this point?
I think that we've talked a lot about on the show over the season about them finding their identity, and I think this is what it is, and this is what it has to be right now. They have to win the games defensively. They don't necessarily have to go out there and score defensive touchdowns, which, I mean, probably in some of these games when we are talking about NC State and Duke with a little bit more high-powered offenses, I say that modestly, we're probably going to need some defensive touchdowns. But I do think this is the identity of the team. And I also think that if you have an offense that's not turning over the ball and a defense that's creating turnovers, controlling the line of scrimmage on the run and getting after the quarterback, I think that's the easiest style of play to replicate. And it travels well because, I mean, a lot of that stuff is effort. Once you have your X's and O's and you get your technique down, all of that stuff is muscle memory and getting into it. And if you're putting that effort forward, I mean, that's the best way to play football when you have an offense that's not really performing at the level that they should or really has a true identity.
When I look at what this team has been able to do, I do see a little bit of a development of trust from Gio Lopez into his receivers. Mm-hmm. Both of the touchdowns that he threw last week. And again, both of these teams today are averaging, 2 touchdowns a game, which is it's meager.
It's not good. it's not good to say the least. Yeah.
But the 2 touchdowns he had last week against Stanford, both were trust the process type throws in a sense that he's got a guy in his face on the wheel that he threw to Bullet,
mm-hmm.
and then the other one, the one he threw to Ship, was absolutely like he was 3/4 of the way on the ground, just falling backwards because he had a guy who was about to pancake him.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're looking for positives, I think that's another example of him starting to trust where his guys are going to be
mm-hmm.
and starting to understand what's going on. I think it's still okay to disagree with a lot of the play calling. I still think a lot of the play calling does not put him, in the best positions, right?
Yeah.
Like some of the things I've seen Freddie Kitchens call are about as useless as a chain link bass boat, right? Just really worthless type calls that feel like throwaways.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm seeing a quarterback that now makes me wonder, God, if he'd have been here for spring ball, is he a little better
mm-hmm.
than what we're seeing on the field right now? And if his receivers continue to build that bond with him, maybe this team can make a bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
Am I stretching things a little bit, or am I just getting happy years, or what?
I don't think you're stretching things a little at all. I mean, you think about a quarterback that's coming into a new system that's playing against a high level of competition. You're going to see those growing pains through training camp, through training camp, and through the beginning of the season. But some of that is also going to be reduced when you have that spring ball to work on plays and really get to know the playbook. Then you can use the summertime to really develop that timing with your wide receivers to do the things that you don't necessarily need the coaches around to do. Once Gio got here, he was forced to spend time with coaches just so he can have the basic parameters of the offense nailed down. So I think he's getting to the point where he's getting a little bit more consistent play from his wide receivers. And I mean, at this point in the season, the offensive line is going to be what it's going to be. We're coming off what's probably their worst performance of the season, honestly. So, I mean, I don't think it's a stretch to say he's getting better. I mean, he's not to where we need him to be to consistently score on offense, but I do think it's better. And that we've been talking for the last few weeks. We just want to see consistent improvement from this team. And I think he is improving a little bit, and some of those growing pains are getting ironed out.
How much of last week's struggles on offense are a result of Stanford's D-line getting pressure, or do you feel like UNC's O-line just wasn't prepared? Because there was a lot of pressure in Lopez's face for most of the day, and North Carolina just could not get a run game going at any point in time.
I think both things are true a little bit. I think that this is the first game where the offensive line was really going against, I'll say other than Clemson, the first game in a while where they're really going against some true athletes on that defensive line. And I mean, based on what we've seen from this line, and not to harp on them or really beat up on the offensive line, but I mean, the proof is in the pudding, and it's you are what you put on tape is what we say so much. So, I mean, I don't think I really expected anything more. I do think that Freddie Kitchens is going to have to get creative and kind of work around that. But how do you work around a weakness as glaring as the offensive line? I mean, what can you really get going with that? So I do think that something's going to have to change. We're going to have to get those guys moving or something, or it's going to go back to our earlier point in the show where the defense is really going to have to pull this offense along.
It's weird. I'm thinking about how differently North Carolina has used that running back room this year. Obviously when Caleb Hood decided that he was done, that changed the face of things, but we've started to see there's not really any sort of regular usage of guys. I think last week you saw them use Gauss a lot because I think he's the best in pass pro. When they're trying to get a guaranteed yard, it seems like Benjamin Hall is the guy, and he came back after being nicked up against Syracuse. And then when you're just looking for a straight up speed runner, it seems like Damon June's the guy. It's fascinating for me to see that kind of ride the fit situation in college, because that's not usually what you see in a college game, but it's absolutely something that Bill Belichick has always done with the Patriots.
Oh yeah, and I think that's one of the rare luxury that we do have on offense, that we can kind of plug and play some of those running backs. All of the things that those running backs do well, they do very well. But we don't have one running back who excels at enough of those things that he can be the consistent bell cow for that team. And honestly, I mean, if you have the type of backfield and the type of running back room that we do right now, I don't think that we necessarily need that. But if we can keep these guys around, keep developing these guys, and maybe go out and recruit or in the transfer portal get another guy who does have more of that skill set, I just think that makes us a more dangerous offense for time to come. But at this moment where you don't have one stand-up guy and you don't really have a true identity on offense, I think it's best that we do have a running back by committee like we have.
When you've got kind of, again, from the wide angle view, when you've got a matchup like Carolina against Wake today, which is very much, and again, we're going to talk about it in the next segment, very much a mirror image of each other. How important is the play calling in a situation like this? Because again, I panned Freddie Kitchens multiple times. I'm still not sure that the book that they're working with is getting the most out of what Gio Lopez can do for you, but it has looked better at times this year, depending on who they're playing. How important will that be today against a Wake team that is just absolutely stout on defense?
I think it's going to be even more important today because, I mean, like you said, these teams are mirror images of each other, and the defenses have really been carrying both of these teams. But we've seen that Wake was able to beat UVA because of all the times that the UVA put the ball on the ground where they were struggling at quarterback. I mean, that was something that I don't think anybody really saw coming at that time, especially until the quarterback got hurt. But it's going to be more important to put not only Gio, but the offense as a whole in good situations to succeed today. Just listening to the game plan podcast, every one of these drives need to end with a kick.
Yes.
I mean, whether that's punting, hopefully it's kicking a field goal or kicking an extra point, but we can't turn the ball over today. That's going to be what's going to put us in the position to win. And I think the play call is going to have to reflect that. Yes, it may look a little vanilla, but I mean, at the end of the day, as long as we're celebrating the win, it doesn't matter what it looked like.
Both of these teams, they cause a lot of fumbles. I imagine today is going to be the urologist bowl.
Yeah.
You know what that is?
What's that?
It's a lot of hands and a lot of balls. There's going to be a lot of fumbles caused, or at least there have been a lot of fumbles caused by both of these defenses. And I would be shocked if you don't see more of that today.
Yeah.
For North Carolina, how can they take things from a gross win last week that they can build on? Obviously, the win's the most important thing, like you said. But what can they take from a slogfest against Stanford and use today against Wake Forest?
They added a play that will probably be on the fourth quarter highlight tape for years to come. I mean, we talking one thing that I know that special teams really does show the identity of a team, and to go out there and get the most old school tackle that really was on the limit. Hit. I am talking about that hit, the hit of the season.
He dropped that boy like a Dodge transmission.
Yes, he did.
It was brutal.
I've never seen a guy. I mean, I think part of that was him jumping on the ground too, because y'all don't think you can hit a guy that hard. But so I mean, and when a tackle just kind of skirmishes the line of legal, when it makes you ask that question and maybe look for a flag, I think that really sets the tone. But in all seriousness, hits like that really can. Like we talked about some of those momentum things the last time I was on the show, and this is the thing that not only a momentum in the game, but can carry you for the rest of the season. And this team was really looking for something to be remembered for, and what better to be remembered for than fourth quarter highlight tape in Keenan. So I really do think that not only from that single play, but the attitude that represented. We got to go out there, finish this season physical, because it's going to be a dogfight. This game's going to be a dogfight, and we're going to have to turn the last two games into dogfights if we have a chance to win. It's
crazy because you think about North Carolina's special teams this year have been kind of milquetoast, not really bad, but also nothing spectacular. And Belichick said that a lot in some of his media availabilities. He's just not happy with what they're getting out of the return game. Well, Wake has returned both types of kicks this year, I think. And I think that was probably one of the reasons that they beat Virginia. North Carolina is going to have more hits like Jonathan Agamadu had last week in the kicking game today, because it's going to be a field position battle, and you're going to have to keep Wake from setting themselves up with short fields on kick returns. And you know, Tom McGinnis, to his credit, was dog water earlier in the year. I think he's actually been serviceable recently. They've corrected kind of what the execution is and getting the ball off his feet. They've gotten better about that. He's gotten better about kind of angling some of his kicks most of the time. Today, that's going to be huge, because you're talking about two defenses that are going to make two bad offenses look worse than they are. So the kicking game is going to be a big deal. Do you have any memories from your time playing where, similar to Agamadu's hit last week, you had one of those type special teams plays that just made everybody on the offense kind of stand up and snap in, and all of a sudden now things are clicking on the field?
I honestly can remember quite a few. I mean, there were some big hits that I saw that really ignited the team. And I mean, you look at kind of the cast of characters that we had on our team, it's like nobody really shied away from special
Y'all had some
teams.
headbusters.
We definitely had some headbusters. I mean, we had a lot of guys that I played with who, by the time that Coach John Blake and Coach Davis had got done with their recruiting, they just weren't in the roster anymore. But those guys took pride in special teams. I mean, they really wanted to go out there. So, I mean, I'll honestly say, I mean, we were playing Miami a few years ago, and we were actually on the opposite side of some of those big special team hits. And that can run a team one way, too, because it motivated us like, okay, we got to go out here and get these things back for our guys. So, I mean, you got to use motivation however you can get it.
And again, we've seen with this team, they've tried to do just enough to make their own motivation in situations like that. Again, the offense was just as stagnant as you could expect last week. And then all of a sudden, the fourth quarter, they find two drives. They hit two good pass plays with a lot of yak on the back end of it. And now all of a sudden, you've got a serviceable margin to win and do what Belichick wants to do, like we talked about earlier, which is take the air out of the stadium, you know, start grinding things out. All right, so we're going to take a quick break. There's a lot to talk about today. We will have Jason Staples at the bottom of the first hour talking a little X's and O's and some film review. There's plenty for us to dig into specifically about this matchup. I think is as gross as the score may be. I think the matchup itself is fascinating because of the fact it's a mirror image type game. We're going to talk about some potentially really awful offense and some potentially great defenses today. So I'm actually glad Earl's here. I'm glad EJ's here, because this is the perfect type of setup for him as a former defensive lineman. So we'll get into all of that. You're listening to Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL.
I'm Shimon Williams, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live.
Hi, friends. This is Mark Pons with Chapel Hill Tire. If you want your car to last, regular car care isn't optional, it's essential. At Chapel Hill Tire, we make it easy to keep your car running stronger and longer. Our digital vehicle inspection gives you a clear picture of your car's health. You'll know what needs fixing now, what can wait, and how to plan ahead and avoid costly repairs down the road. With 12 locations and ASE certified techs, we make it easy to keep your car in top shape. Schedule today at chapelhilltire.com and drive happy.
Here's Will Johnson, founder of the Will Johnson Building Company.
Working with clients always has to do with budget. We try to hit that head on. We try to help clients understand the budget and how to achieve what they want. So that's a very challenging part and exciting part, how our team comes together, looks for solutions, and tries to find a happy medium there.
Go to willjohnsonbuildingcompany.com and see for yourself.
This is Jeff Denny with Generator Supercenter of the Triangle. We are the #1 Generac residential installer in North America. 80% of the homeowners that have a generator have a Generac. We want to understand what it is that you're trying to accomplish and what are your fears, wishes, desires. And then how do we do this project the most efficiently? We're also here to give you peace of mind, protection, safety, and security. Go to GeneratorSupercenterOfTheTriangle.com. That's GeneratorSupercenterOfTheTriangle.com.
Hello, I'm Forrest Gump. People call me Forrest Gump. Lieutenant Dan got me invested in some kind of fruit company and says we don't have to worry about money no more. That's good, one less thing. But if you don't have a Lieutenant Dan, you should talk to John Stillman at Rosewood Wealth Management. He could turn out to be your best good friend. Tell him Forrest sent you.
Forrest Gump is not a real person and wasn't compensated for this endorsement. However, Carolina Wealth Stewards doing business as Rosewood Wealth Management is a real registered investment advisor with the state of North Carolina.
Hi, this is Ely from Alma's Jewelers. The flooding in Eastgate forced us to adjust, but I'm so happy to say we are back right here in our original Eastgate Crossing location. Our showroom is refreshed, sparkling, and ready to welcome you. Whether you're celebrating a milestone, shopping for something special, or just want to stop by and say hello, we are here. Thank you for supporting us throughout it all. Alma's Jewelers, proud to be part of this community, now open in Eastgate Crossing.
Rams Corner on 431 West Franklin has wall-to-wall screens, so you never miss a play. Daily specials on food and drinks, local spirits with a Chapel Hill twist. A space for everyone, students, alumni, locals, and visitors. Enjoy more than good food and good drinks. Create memories from last-minute victories to late-night laughs, where the community comes together and where every day feels like game day. Come for the food, stay for the energy, and leave as part of the Rams Corner family. 431 West Franklin Street.
With my big black boots and an old suitcase.
You're listening to Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill WCHL, the flagship station for Tar Heel sports.
I don't wanna be the bad guy. I don't wanna do your sleepwalk dance anymore.
Inside Carolina Live. Speaking of heroin, Alex Alexakis and Everclear for you. Shout out to AJ for getting that bump in for me today. Everclear is a wholly slept-on band. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
Slept on because of the heroin.
Absolutely.
Literally.
Yeah.
I see what you did there.
Absolutely. I can remember being a young high schooler and remembering the line, "You can never have the joy of a welfare Christmas." And that was that's one of their finest ones. But Alex Alexakis and the boys from Everclear, just giving them some love anywhere and everywhere. So appreciate everybody joining us today. I'm Joey Powell, EJ Wilson over there. Tommy Ashley's somewhere on the grounds of the Pepsi. Well, he might be on the ground of the Pepsi lot in Winston right now, but somewhere outside the gates getting ready to watch North Carolina live against the Demon Deacons. AJ is on the board. So we talked about earlier just what a strong set of similarities there are between these two opponents today. Mm-hmm. And when I say that, I want everybody to understand it's really sound defenses, specifically up front, and then two offenses that at times are just completely woefully inept.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we were talking during the break. I mean, there's a real chance that there will be some defensive scoring today.
Mm-hmm.
There will be a lot of short fields. I talked about both teams' propensity to cause fumbles. And, looking specifically at Wake's offense, man, it's just everything that you want to complain about North Carolina on offense, Wake's kind of got that in spades. The one thing they do have differently, and I want to shout out Damon Claiborne. He's been at Wake basically since Moses wore short pants, but he's turned into a really, really reliable back. And I think he's probably the one guy that can change things in this game today. I think he's probably the most likely, with Jordan Shipp probably being the second,
Mm-hmm.
but he's probably the most likely game-changing player today. He's rushed for, over 700 yards this year and 8 touchdowns. Flip side of that for Wake is their offense from a passing standpoint is just absolutely cheeks. Robbie Ashford, who's played, West Durham would call him one of these Rand McNally guys because he's been in so many different states. But he's played for multiple squads. He was at Auburn for a couple years, at South Carolina for a little bit. His quarterback rating is third worst amongst ACC eligible quarterbacks. And he's thrown 3 touchdown passes. 3. 1, 2, Dale Earnhardt, right? Like he just hasn't thrown for a very high percentage today. And that's the fewest in the country amongst QBs with at least 200 dropbacks from Pro Football Focus.
Wow.
So, EJ,
Yes.
when you were playing and you knew that there was a team that was going to have to run the ball to be effective, what does a game plan look like? And what is it you guys are repping in practice leading up to that situation? Because I think today's game for Wake Forest is as obvious as it can be. It's going to be get Claiborne the ball. He runs really well, specifically going outside to the left. So if I'm North Carolina's defense, I'm repping that. How do you remember that sort of game planning looking like, and what were you guys doing specifically in team periods to prepare for that sort of what you think is going to be a one-sided attack?
It's kind of like sitting in the defensive team meeting and having the whole room turning around and looking at the defensive line unit because we knew it was going to be all on our backs. But there are a couple of different situations where we kind of had this. And I'll talk about 3 different situations. One is when you're playing against Georgia Tech and that triple offense that a lot of people hated it, but as defensive linemen, we love playing against that game because that was a complete stat game for us. No, we weren't going to get any sacks, but when you get 11 solo tackles in a game, they usually shoot you up towards the middle.
Somebody's eating.
So that game, we're really focusing on just pad level leverage and keeping those offensive linemen that like to cut off of our legs. When you're playing a team like when we played Pittsburgh, when they had Deion Lewis and they had that's unbelievable team, they were a gap scheme team. They ran a lot of power. So it really was on us to make sure that we were, as defensive end, we were controlling the tight ends and that our interior tackles were controlling double teams. So that was another week that was really heavy towards what the defensive linemen had to do, because with the linebackers that we had, if we were controlling our gaps, they were going to come downhill and they were going to make sure they took care of their responsibilities. But the most infamous game I would say would be the game where we played against West Virginia, where Mr. Pat White, we said, yeah, they have
Pat,
all these.
I can't throw the ball, White.
Pat, I cannot throw the ball unless it's against UNC White. And our whole game plan was to stop those running backs, and we did stop those running backs. But on the other hand, Pat White threw for, I think it was a West Virginia school record against us, and won that game. So there are different ways to prepare. Yeah, that one was more of the side to side kind of stopping the zone run, and I think we still did a good job in that. So, and I think they just need to be prepared for everything. But it's really going to be focused on the defensive lineman and really making sure that you're making your tackles and some of that gang tackling that we've been seeing from the defense over the last few weeks.
Ashford is not great when he's got guys in his face, which is usually the story for most quarterbacks in the college level. If North Carolina can get in his face today, I think that also bodes well. But how do you make the decision between doing it with 4, sending 4 guys and hoping you get home? Because I think North Carolina's got the dudes to do that. And trying to keep things tight on the back end, because it's a slippery slope. You want to put a lot of guys in the box to protect against that run game, but by the same token, you don't want to have somebody being butt naked open because of a busted assignment or something like that. Or when you blitz a guy and he luckily finds the one extra man, running free. How do you decide which one of those you want to play? I mean, is it a percentage thing, or do you play to your strengths as a team and what talents you have?
I think you play to your strengths and your talents. And luckily for us, that our defensive line is not only the strength of our defense, it's probably the strength of our team. Fair. That's probably been the unit that we've seen the most improvement in. I mean, that improvement has been leaps and bounds. I mean, not only from a pass rushing situation with Mr. Abu Jadi out there on the outside having more multiple sack games, I think, than anybody I've seen.
I'm going to go on record right now and say he is the best defensive end in the history of college football named Mel Carton.
I would say that too. I think I'll agree with that. I think all of us as a unit will agree with that one. But not only we're doing that, but we're also stopping the run. Mims, Leroy Jackson, some of those guys in the middle are really holding their own. I mean, we're not seeing that knockback, but we're also not seeing guys 1 or 2 yards down the field.
Getting gapped badly.
Exactly. Yeah. We're doing a good enough job up front to where our athletic linebackers can get downhill. And Andrew Simpson's really showed me a lot this season. We talked about when Caleb Hood decided to retire, who would step up and be the leader of this team. And I think just by play, it's been Andrew Simpson, at least on the defensive side of the ball. So I think that we lean into what we can do on defense. We give the guys on the back end as much help as we can. But I guess luckily we're playing against a team, as you just mentioned, that's not really good at passing the ball. So I think that really plays into our strength as a defensive unit.
I think you're going to see a lot of similar play. When I tell our audience this is going to be a field position game today, it's going to be a field position game today. Yeah. It's one of those where, and I think this is the way Belichick would have it if he could draw up a game, right? Like, figure out what you need to score, go score that number, and let your defense eat. And I do think they will try to get pressure with just 4 today. With North Carolina's defense, I feel like they've been really opportunistic in a sense that, they're not blitzing a ton. They're being pretty sound on the back end, and we're still waiting to see if Thad Dixon's going to play today or not. We hope to have an update on that soon. But North Carolina's kind of made turnovers without having a ton of crazy scheme stuff. I mean, it looks like they're playing a lot of base stuff. They're just repping it really well. And then when you have one guy like a Abu Jaude or Smith Filbert or somebody like that make a play, then all of a sudden your offense's game just becomes so much easier. What is it like when you have a guy who can, while he might not be a superstar, is a plus level player in the defense that you play most of the time? How much does that kind of lift everybody else up, and how much does it do for an offense at times is still trying to find itself?
I think it definitely lifts everybody up. I think that's the case when we were at Carolina. Yes, we had a couple of elite guys on defense, but we had a couple of really good role players, I would say myself included, who just excelled at what they did and let the other guys around them play. I think that while I was there, if I wasn't able to play so well against the run, then we don't get into the situations where we can get like guys like Marvin Austin and Quentin Coples and Robert Quinn and Dante Page-Moss come off the edge, and Michael McAdoo come off the edge like they did. So I think you have to play that type of complementary football, and I think they have some guys in this defense that could do that. I mean, we started off this season talking a lot about Marcus Allen, and we kind of joke around a lot about how he's probably do good for a pass interference call every game, but the one thing that he has gotten better is on tackling, and that's the one thing that really control what you can control. It's an effort thing. It's a technique thing. So, I mean, we're not asking these guys to reinvent the wheel, but just show me something. And I think they've showed us that. So if he can come out and really play, I think above, not above what he's capable of, because I think he's capable of being a really good player. I think if he can play better than just continue this improvement, I think he can be the guy that can change the tide. And I think he's going to be the guy that if he's playing his base technique, I think he's going to be in a position to get some more turnovers for us today.
I feel like when I was prepping for the show, I feel like, again, this is right in your comfort zone. This game is your snuggie. I feel like this is going to be trench play on either side, defining a game. If you're an offensive lineman and you're going up against a team that is able to get pressure with 4, as North Carolina has shown. Same with Wake. Wake has some guys that are absolute terrors on defense. I mean, they've got a remarkable ability to disrupt their offenses. And again, you saw that against Virginia, where their offense did nothing. They still won the game because their defense just wouldn't let Virginia get started. Is that something that North Carolina can scheme for today to I guess maybe keep Wake's front 4 under control, especially after seeing what we saw against Stanford's front 4 last week? That makes me a little heartburnish if I'm a UNC fan.
Yeah. This is where old Optimism Prime is going to have to go negative a little bit. And it's really because I really can't justify anything that's going to show us that our offensive lines are really going to be able to control their defensive line unless they really play out of their minds and out of, I won't even say, I won't dare insult them and say above their capabilities, but just above what they've seen, what they've shown us this year. I mean, these guys are in college. They've received scholarships because they're capable of playing at this level. It's just the execution thing. And with the offensive line, a lot of times it's a confidence thing. So I don't know really how you scheme offensive line wise, being a defensive lineman. I don't really know how you can really scheme to really kind of hide some of those discrepancies that we have, because to be honest with you, some of those are just toughness and grit things. And that's something that the greatest coach in the world can instill that into a player.
Wake also has some really strong, experienced dudes in the back end of their defense. Nick Anderson's one that you'll probably recognize because he's been there for ages. He led the ACC in tackles last year, but he also splits his time in lining up in the box or playing free. And again, that's something where North Carolina is going to have to account for a guy like that today, whether it's chipping him, whether it's making sure that he's accounted for in pass pro, whether it's making sure that, somebody's dragging him out on whatever kind of routes they're running. I'd love to see the tight ends get more involved to kind of keep a guy like that out of the box. Maybe that's just me, but I feel like North Carolina has underused the tight ends quite a bit this year. And the tight ends should be something that would help a quarterback that doesn't do a lot with the deep ball, right? I
mean, of course they can. I mean, if you look in most of the great offenses, and I can't even say most, I'd have to say all of the great offenses, they may not have an elite tight end, but they're using the tight end. They're doing that to keep the defense honest. I think you can look at the Indianapolis Colts, and their most successful play to the tight end is the most simple block and go play. But that's because that's a check that if you're not going to account for him, we're going to throw the ball to him all day. And now that you have to pay attention to the tight end in the route, that frees it up for some of your running backs coming out of the backfield, your wide receivers. And Jordan Shipp has shown that he can be a big-time wide receiver for this team. And I think utilizing the tight end, having him in some of those route combinations, I think that's going to just free up other guys and take that completion percentage up.
I don't think you have to go full 13 personnel, but I would like to see North Carolina forcing Wake to cover the middle of the field. And I think they might be able to do that with some more emphasis on the tight end. And again, you're also likely helping your quarterback out then because he's not having to hold the ball very long for a tight end to finish his route.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. We're going to talk with Jason Staples. A little bit of a film breakdown. You guys know Jason; he always has some great insight. Looking at cut-ups from the prior week. He did it again this week from Stanford. So if you're an Inside Carolina premium subscriber, you know what to expect from Jason. We'll talk a little X's and O's with Doc here in a second. He's EJ Wilson. I'm Joey Powell. You're listening to Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill WCHL.
This is Anthony Elvey, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live. Go ahead.
Rally House, shop every team in town, college and pro. Come on, it's time to go.
The season starts at Rally House. From jerseys and hats to tumblers for game day, it's where outrageous selection meets every fan's style.
Carolina Pride, we bring the heat from the Dean Dome floor to Franklin Street.
Rally House, it's your city, it's your house, it's a Rally House.
Level up your fandom in-store or online at rallyhouse.com.
I'm Jeremy Salemson with CIMG Residential Mortgage. There are optimistic signs and trends in housing these days, so you may be asking, is this the right time to buy or sell, and what can I afford? Well, we're here to help you buy or refinance your home with an experienced team, creative solutions, personalized service, and efficient systems. Contact us at CIMGINC.com and see firsthand the advantages of lending on a first-name basis. NMLS number 39460.
Hi, this is Ely from Alma's Jewelers. The flooding in Eastgate forced us to adjust, but I'm so happy to say we are back right here in our original Eastgate Crossing location. Our showroom is refreshed, sparkling, and ready to welcome you. Whether you're celebrating a milestone, shopping for something special, or just want to stop by and say hello, we are here. Thank you for supporting us throughout it all. Alma's Jewelers, proud to be part of this community, now open in Eastgate Crossing.
When Andy Dufresne escaped from Shawshank with all of the warden's money, just where do you think he went? Well, yes, he went to Mexico. But first he had to go see John Stillman at Rosewood Wealth Management. And if you want your money to last, you should go see John, too.
Shawshank Redemption is a fictional story, and Ellis Redding isn't real. However, Carolina Wealth Stewards doing business as Rosewood Wealth Management is in fact a real registered investment advisor with the state of North Carolina.
Rams Corner is the hottest place to catch the heels. NFL, NBA, and international soccer on the biggest TVs in town. Enjoy an affordable menu with starters, soups and salads, seafood, veggie dishes, tacos, and burgers, hot off the grill. All freshly made from $7 to $21. Nothing matches it. Dine and drink on the front patio, the longest bar in town, or a party table for up to 12. Rams Corner is at 431 West Franklin. On the corner, make it your place for food, fun, and games.
This is Jeff Denny with Generator Supercenter of the Triangle. We are the #1 Generac residential installer in North America. I really stress with the customers that we are looking to be their generator partner for the next 10, 15, 20 years for their ownership of having a generator. We want to make sure they can rely on us that that generator is ready to run and on go when they need it. Go to GeneratorSuperCenterOfTheTriangle.com. That's GeneratorSuperCenterOfTheTriangle.com.
You're listening to Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill WCHL, the flagship station for Tar Heel sports.
Oh, my friend, that's something they didn't understand.
Inside Carolina Live. Thanks for joining us. Tar Heels kicking off at 4:30 on the CW. That's right, the CW. AJ's favorite channel. Not so much?
I mean, they have Supernatural.
I don't even know what that is.
Neither do I.
That's fair.
Tar Heels heading to Winston-Salem. It's funny, right before we got on the air, the buses just passed by here, headed that way. So, if you're in Winston, get settled in. Appreciate you making us a part of your pregame ritual, and hope that all of you guys that are listening or watching us on either chapelboro.com or IC's YouTube channel Hope you will continue to make us part of your pregame ritual. I'm Joey Powell. EJ Wilson's over there. And right now, we'll bring on our guy, Jason Staples.
I am the smartest man alive.
To talk about what we assume is going to be just an absolute bowling shoe ugly game today. Doc, how you feeling?
I'm feeling like a point explosion is coming. We're gonna see lots of offensive fireworks today. Yeah.
I didn't realize it was opposite day, but yeah, who knows? I'm gonna follow wherever you take us here. Let's quickly look back at Stanford. What did that tape tell you that might affect today's game against Wake?
Well, one is that don't expect a lot of points on the offensive side, and especially since Wake Forest is better defensively than Stanford. So that's number one. And number two is defensively. I think they have really fully turned the corner, and they're really maximizing what they've got in terms of personnel, and they're going to be, I think, very difficult for this Wake team to move the ball on and score. So, if you like watching prolific offenses get into a track meet and all of that, then maybe don't go to this one, and maybe watch something else this afternoon. But if you like good, sound defensive football, you're going to see some pretty good, sound defensive football today from both teams.
It's funny, I know you guys bust Greg Barnes' chops a lot about him loving these minuscule scoring games, but this really shapes up today for North Carolina and Wake to be one of those. I'm sitting here looking at a Wake Forest offense that they're not great, but I feel like they show up in key moments. A lot of it's built around Damon Claiborne's running. Who is it from Wake that poses the biggest threat for North Carolina today, from their standpoint on offense?
I mean, you just said it. It's Claiborne. I mean, he's the one guy that really scares you in terms of what he brings to the table as a ball carrier and as a potential game breaker. He's a guy that can actually, he can change the numbers on the scoreboard. He's had some big runs over the course of the season. He will break tackles at the second level, and he's got enough speed to cause problems. So he's the guy you key on, and he's the guy you just don't let beat you. Other than that, I mean, they've got a receiver whose name is escaping me at the moment, that lines up in the slot, lines up around, and is a he's their punt returner and such. He's the other guy that can really give you some problems. But the biggest issue is that they even if they had real game breakers at wide receiver, they haven't been able to hit him. The quarterback position is a real limiting factor for this team, and they're not in the position to really be that dangerous in the passing game because they're not very good at the quarterback position.
Hey, Jason, I know you just finished talking about how they're not really strong at quarterback and their passing game hasn't really been as effective this season. Where else can UNC force Wake into some mistakes?
Well, I mean, I think their offensive line also. I mean, in a lot of ways, Wake's offense it kind of mirrors North Carolina's. They've had some difficulties with accuracy at the quarterback position, and they aren't very good on the offensive line, in terms of consistency. And when you pair those two things up, you get, kind of it becomes very difficult for anybody to move the football consistently when you're not good at on the offensive line, and you can't reliably throw the football. So, and you don't get it out super fast. So, when you get those things combined, then you end up with those problems. And they really have both of those problems. And I mean, they had a couple big plays a couple weeks ago at Florida State in the first half. And, that was a game they got blown out. They got beat 42-7, but they had a couple big plays in the first half and, they should have been in that game as a result. But then the offensive line got busted for some key penalties because they got handsy. They got, they were undisciplined and that was that. So, this is the problem that they have right now is that they've got a good back and they've got a couple guys that can run, but they can't throw the football and they don't block very well. And when you combine those things, then that makes it very, very difficult for you offensively.
So, Jason, let's flip it a little bit. Unfortunately, Wake does have a really good defense, specifically, if you believe in PFF grades at all, they're really good against the pass. We mentioned a tad before we hit the break about, is this the time where North Carolina finally gets the tight ends involved to account for Anderson on Wake Forest's side, defensive side at safety? How do you think North Carolina can find ways to score? Because it's, again, points are going to be at a premium today. And aside from planning a defensive score, what can North Carolina do with the ball to give themselves the best chance?
I mean, really, you've got to be patient in this game because, again, we talked about this a little bit on Inside Carolina the last couple of weeks, is you don't want to treat a game where points are at a premium on the offensive side as though you need to score in a track meet and then turn the ball over and get yourself in trouble. So the biggest thing I think is just you've got to be patient and you've got to take what's offered. There are going to be some times where, because they do play some zone, there are going to be some opportunities to be able to fit some balls and just take some freebies here and there. If I'm coaching Gio Lopez here, I'm telling him to be very, very, very patient. Just make sure that you recognize where they're giving you freebies, take those freebies, and live to see another play. Get the ball out quickly, and if they can do that, then they're going to have some opportunities for some first downs. You change the field position. And this is one of those games, you normally say you don't win games with field goals. You got to score touchdowns. This is a game you might be able to win with you might be able to win this game with a field goal. So, this is one of those where I think you're just not trying to manufacture a ton of points. You're trying to be very, very careful about what you can do without turning it over. So you're running the football. You're okay with periodic 3 and outs. You're okay with some, just exchanges of field position. And you've got to be content to play that game as long as you're not making mistakes. And then what you do is you bide your time and you just try to, after you've been patient for long enough, that's when you take the one or two opportunities to try to hit a big play down the field. And that's where you go play action, you take your shot. I think some sort of boot action or half roll for the kind of over route that they've been successful with this year. There are going to be a few of those opportunities where they're going to have that kind of deep cross off of a boot action. You got to hit those when you get those opportunities, hit those for, 25, 30, 40 yards. And, a couple of 40-yard plays in this game might be enough to win it for you if you do that without turning it over. So really, that's how you're playing this. You're not trying to score 35 points because, honestly, the odds that Wake Forest does that are very slim.
Let me ask you this, and when I hear you describing this, it sounds like a Bill Belichick special where he knows exactly how many points he needs to win the game. You were going back talking about rolling Gio Lopez out a lot. I'm going to ask you to help me understand Freddie Kitchens' mind a little bit. Why is it that I feel like every time they roll him, they make him roll to the side where he's going to have to throw across his body? Why do those plays keep coming up? Is there something where my brain just doesn't understand it and it is more advanced football than I'm used to looking at? Why do I keep seeing those?
Well, some of it I think has to do with tendencies in terms of, teams will often defend the opposite side of the quarterback, the kind of the throwing side of the quarterback more. But the other thing is, I'm not sure that Gio doesn't throw it better going that direction. And, some quarterbacks do when they get their shoulders turned or whatever, they actually throw it better going the opposite way. And if you look at Gio's chart on the season, he's actually completed a higher percentage of passes to his right side than he has to his left. So I do wonder whether or not that's actually a factor here, that they've just watched him in practice enough and they've just decided, it's counterintuitive, but he's just one of those guys that he just throws it better when he's going the opposite way. And that's what we're going to do. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's what it is. Because again, if you just look at his success rates on the season, he's been more successful when throwing to his right side, which is really unusual for a left-handed quarterback. But that's just how it's worked out all season. So I'm willing to learn. That's actually it.
I'm willing to learn, man. I think it's if the charts and the data tell me something than what my eyes see, then I'm willing to go with the data. Last question for Jason Staples, and you can get as long-winded as you want to with this one, because I think it's worth watching with this team, and it's not something that North Carolina fans are specifically used to. And that's how this team has been rotating running backs on a regular basis. And I don't mean over the course of a game. I mean, instead of finding a guy that's the hot hand, what you're seeing is a very NFL approach of they're running the whichever running back fits what they're trying to do that day. And we cited earlier that Gauss got a lot of playing time last week because the staff likes him in pass pro. Who do you think from the running back room is going to be the guy today to get the most attention? And do they go back to a pass pro situation against a Wake Forest front four like Stanford had, or is it going to be one of those where they're trying to get a guy that's got some speed and can find some of those 40-yard plays you're talking about?
So I think this is another game where Goss is probably going to be is probably going to be called on. I do think Damon June has some opportunities today as well, but this is one where you're going to need the combination of somebody who can slash against that defensive front, and then somebody who's actually able to protect. And protection, I think, is less important in this one because you're probably not going to be trying to throw it a ton. In terms of how many points you need to score and all that. But I do think that Goss's ability to run with some speed, or some burst, I should say. He's not that fast in terms of long speed, but he's a bursty guy. And I think that's something that in this game is actually going to matter because of how their front plays. And I think, rushing yards are going to be at a premium, and they're going to need somebody who can actually break a tackle, if at all possible, at that second level, and then make a play. And last few weeks, I think two guys that have done that the most are Damon June and Goss, and they do it in different ways, but I think they're probably both going to be the guys that get the most reps today.
It's crazy because North Carolina as a team has not broken very many tackles. And I think y'all might have mentioned on the game plan earlier this week with you and Greg and Tommy, Damon Claiborne has more broken tackles this year than all of North Carolina's running backs do. And that gives me a little bit of heartburn.
It's not good.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've been a very average running back room. I mean, below average, really. And, they're going to need to find some opportunities in this one to get to that second level. Offensive line's going to have to hold up enough to do that. And then you're going to have to get a couple broken tackles to be able to get some points in this one. But again, if folks are expecting an offensive explosion,
look elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those games where you're probably safe most drives to go and, if you need to get an extra drink or something at the fridge, you could probably skip a couple plays and you're unlikely to miss a whole lot. I mean, there's probably as good a chance of there being a big play in punt return today as there is on any given drive. And, it's just a different kind of game, and you're going to have to adjust for that. And, I can promise you people are going to be upset about how they're going about things offensively. Like, what is he even doing? But again, some of that is just a matter of how many points do we need? We're going to try to score more points than that. And honestly, 17 points probably wins this football game.
So what's the most important stat? Is it winning the turnover battle, or is it the hidden yards on kick returns?
I would say the most important stat is actually starting field position, which essentially combines the turnover stat with the kick return big play stat on special teams. Because if you have a pick six or something like that, you count that as basically starting in the end zone. But other than who's putting their defense position where suddenly they're going to give up points. That to me is the biggest stat. That's going to be the hardest thing. You've got to find ways to put yourself in positions where you can actually win. And yeah, I mean, you got to tackle on punt return. You've got to make sure, because they do have a punt returner that's a real threat. You got to tackle on punt return. You got to free drive with it.
All right. Doc, we appreciate it. Your phone's starting to get broken up, but I was going to ask you before you bail on us, what's the last thing they say to the Wake Forest mascot before he gets on his motorcycle and rides out on the field?
Yeah, you're going to have to tell me.
They tell him to get to the chopper. Get to the chopper now.
Nice.
All right, Doc.
That makes sense. That makes too much sense. I should have known.
We will talk to you very soon, man. We look forward to your work this week on doing some film cut-ups for everybody on Inside Carolina. Doc, we'll talk to you soon, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
That's Jason Staples. And as we always say with Doc, the film doesn't lie. I thought that was a good setup.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I thought it was great. You couldn't do any better.
Oh, man. My man loves an Arnold quote, and I felt like that one worked today. I mean, I can't pull that out for a game against Clemson.
No, you can't.
And as we know, Wake likes to have their mascot riding a motorcycle, for God knows why.
For whatever reason that is. I mean,
because when I think of deacons in the Baptist church and football, I think of riding Harley Davidsons out to center field, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That makes a ton of sense.
When I think of Wake Forest, I think of Winston-Salem. When I think of Winston-Salem, I think of Krispy Kreme. So
I'm not even mad at that. Matter of fact, I could go for a couple of hot and glazed right this moment.
As could I.
AJ, why don't we have donuts sitting here right now?
Because you didn't ask.
Okay, fair enough. Well, so that implies to me that if we ask next time, there will be donuts.
Did not say that.
Oh, okay. We're gonna take a quick break. I will say if there are any Texas A&M fans listening to us right now, I understand why you're listening, because the product that your football team is putting out against the Game Chickens in College Station today is absolute cheeks.
Yeah,
it's hideous. We'll be right back. We're going to talk a little bit more in the next segment. We're going to get inside EJ's head about this team's toughness and what that might mean against Wake Forest today and what it might mean for the last 3 games against rivalry opponents. You're listening to Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL.
This is Ryan Taylor, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live.
It's time for the Chapel Hill Tire Drive Happy Drive of the Game. In a defensive battle that had UNC tied 3-3 at halftime against Stanford, the offense opened the second half with an impressive 12-play, 7-minute, 72-yard touchdown drive to take the lead and set up another Tar Heel win.
3rd and 12 off the 20. 3-3 the score. Green goes in motion from right to left. Lopez in the shotgun will throw. Looking to Goss left side. Hit as he throws the wheel route. Caught! It's Goss bulleting to the front left corner of the end zone for 6.
That was this week's Chapel Hill Tire Drive Happy Drive of the Game. Save $50 when you spend $150 or more on automotive services during football season at any of Chapel Hill Tire's 12 area locations. Use promo code DOTG25 when you schedule your appointment, and drive happy, Tar Heels.
Inside Carolina, the place for Tar Heel sports discussion, analysis, and breaking news, has moved to a new home, the On3 Network, offering the same great coverage of Carolina sports with exclusive recruiting information, in-depth team analysis, and insightful podcasts. You can still find us at InsideCarolina.com, but you will need to reactivate your subscription as they don't transfer to our new home. You can do so today for $1. Make your game day begin and end with InsideCarolina.com.
I'm Pat Circadakis with Coldwell Banker Howard Perry in Wellston.
I'm a realtor emeritus, a licensed real estate agent for more than 40 years. People ask me why I keep doing this. It's fun. Helping people buy homes, build wealth, raise their families, become part of a community. I don't know of anything that makes you feel better than that. I'm going to keep doing it as long as people want me to.
To learn more, go to trianglehomes.realestate.
Rally House, shop every team in town. College and pro, come on, it's time to go.
The season starts at Rally House. From jerseys and hats to tumblers for game day, it's where outrageous selection meets every fan's style.
Carolina Pride, we bring the heat from the Dean Dome floor to Franklin Street.
Rally House, it's your city, it's your house, it's a Rally House.
Level up your fandom in-store or online at rallyhouse.com.
My name is Ben Johnson. I oversee the design and pre-construction process at Will Johnson Building. When I think about enduring spaces, that can be a awesome renovation. It can be a new home. It can be anything that's part of the built environment that we get to touch every day. And so enduring to me means that it's going to be here at least another 100 years, hopefully longer than that. And that's a big part of that for me.
Go to willjohnsonbuildingcompany.com and see for yourself.
Hi, it's Jones Angel, voice of the Tar Heels, and you're listening to your flagship station for Tar Heel sports, 97.9 The Hill, WCHL, Chapel Hill.
You're listening to Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL, the flagship station for Tar Heel sports.
Inside Carolina Live. Some food's coming at yous. EJ Wilson over there. I'm Joey Powell. Appreciate you making us a part of your pregame ritual. We will run it right up for another hour and then hand it off. See what I did there? Hand off to our friends at the network as they get you right to kickoff over in Winston from, I don't even know. It's not Truist Field anymore. I don't know what they're calling it. It's the
pulpit.
Who knows?
Deacons.
Yes, the big collection plate. That's where North Carolina's playing today. We've said earlier in the show in the first hour, we talked a little bit about how much these two teams are a mirror match for each other and how much they resemble each other in the way that they lean on their defense and their offense just, they hope, does enough to get them wins. EJ, help us understand why ugly games like this are hard to finish off. And what do you remember about grinded out type games? Because that was very much one of Butch's thoughts and philosophies when you played for him, was like, hey, we're going to go win with defense, and our offense's job is just to manage the game, right? What does that feel like in the middle of a game, and how does your view as an individual player change, over the course of a game when you're out there watching things be steady? Does it magnify mistakes, or does it just give you a wider belief that mistakes happen?
I think it magnifies mistakes because, when you have something that's going to be a slugfest, when you have two good defensive teams and teams that have been struggling offensively, every mistake is even that much greater and that much more amplified. As Dr. Staples said, this is really going to be a game about starting field position. If you're an offense and if either team's offense turns it over inside the other team's 30, inside their own 30, I think that could be a game-changing mistake. Whereas in any other game, in any other situation, or with any different teams, I think that's not as magnified. But with now a missed tackle that gives the team a first down when you have the chance to stop the drive, or not getting that first down when you need it, I think a lot of those things are really going to play a bigger role. So as a player going into this week, you have to have laser focus. You want to be laser focused any other time, but you have to be focused on your assignment. You can't go out there and try to make big plays. It's going to change the tide of the game. It has to be, let's do what we need to do. And if we're in a position to make a play, make that play, but don't go out there and try to force the issue.
How do you show that aggression? Again, recognizing that today a turnover could very well be the difference in a game, right? Specifically on a day like today where points aren't going to be raining from the skies. How do you play with intensity and try to create turnovers and try to get that ball out without doing too much? See what I'm saying? Because you could go to absolutely try to rip a ball out and miss a tackle that way. Like, how do you balance those two things? I think when it comes to forcing turnovers, I think it's getting a bunch of guys around the ball. Even on some of those interception plays that we see where they're long interceptions, there are 2 or 3 defensive backs around the ball. When you see those fumbles around the line of scrimmage, or even some of those punch out plays, it's usually when a guy's wrapped up and another guy's coming in. That's what I mean. I think doing too much, maybe if you don't have a guy completely secure, don't be trying to rip at the ball, because a guy like Claiborne especially can spin out of those tackles and make something else happen. We just need to get multiple guys around the football, and if one guy has the guy secure, we have to be thinking turnover. Then another instance is since we've been getting after the passer, don't just go to get the quarterback on the ground. Go for his arm, knock the ball out of his hand, try to create some fumbles that way. And I think that's really an opportunity where we can
where we can, in this particular game, where we can really take advantage and be aggressive towards creating turnovers. If we're playing a team with a mobile quarterback who can really hurt us on the edge of the defense or escaping on a long scramble, I think that's a little bit different. But now I think that's going to be our biggest opportunity, maybe, to create some turnovers and getting some tip balls.
What is it about being on the road that makes setting a tone so important? And how do you look to do that without getting outside of yourself?
It's important because you don't want the 12th man to get involved. You don't want to have that crowd to be able to affect because when the crowd's in the game, even the small plays can feel amplified because of the reaction of the crowd, especially in a game where we don't expect many offensive fireworks. So probably most of the loudest jeers are going to be on the defensive side of the ball for both teams. So you go out there you go out there and you play physical football and you set the tone early on in the game. You don't make mistakes. And I think just doing that, just playing simple basic football and frustrating the offense is going to take the crowd out of a little bit. I've played a few games out in Winston-Salem, and I don't think the crowd will be that big of a game changer. But if you're already not playing well, and then that crowd gets into it, it's really going to make things worse. But you go out there, you set the tone, you make the plays that are there for you to make, and you play inside yourself until you can go and make some adjustments and really look at that film and have your coaches talk to you and see how you can really go out there and start making some of those plays we were talking about while still playing inside the framework of the defense.
You're thinking about Robbie Ashford, and we mentioned earlier that he's not going to beat you with his arm. Mm-hmm. Does that make today, from a defensive standpoint, a contain first, second, and third type game where everything you do is built around contain, and doing your 111 and not trying to make that big splash play? I'm just trying to wrap my head around and help folks understand which is more important in a game where points might be a little more valuable than usual.
I think in the beginning of the game, I think we are going to be focused on containing and making sure that he doesn't hurt us with his legs, and maybe giving him a little bit more complex look on the back end. But if we're doing that right and still getting some of that pressure that we talked about with just sending our basic pressures with our defensive line, I think that's going to make things a little bit harder for him because he's going to have to rush the process. And if our guys are doing what they need to do in coverage, I think that'll create some turnovers as well. And if we're containing them, and we're in a situation where it's a low-scoring game in the second half, I do think that we have to start to be more aggressive then, because at that point, our defense is going to have to become a little bit of our offense. We're going to have to try to send some more pressures, maybe to force the quarterback into an errant throw to that maybe we can pick off. So I think in the beginning of the game, we have to play a little bit more conservative, simply based on two great defensive games with offenses that are struggling. But if we're in a situation where the game's close in the second half, we have to be a little bit more aggressive, sending pressure and trying to make some of those defensive plays.
There's always those situations, especially when you're trying to ice a game, where you see defensive backs have just a perfect bead on a pass. Like they've read it, everything right, and they go up and hits them in the hands, and you understand now why they play DB instead of receiver, right? And some of these DBs, these are the types of guys that they couldn't catch a cold running naked in Alaska. How important is that today? Making that grab, if you're the defensive back and you've made a good read, how much more magnified is making that interception today when your offense is probably going to struggle?
I mean, to quote the Kevin Hart LeBron James commercial, it's everything. But I mean, honestly, I think we're going to have to see some of that, and I think that Steve Belichick is going to be coaching those guys up to do some of that. I mean, in the games that we've won, there have been ugly offensive performances, and I think that's the next level. I mean, when you look at how we've improved, we started off with being a little bit more stout against the run. Then we've gone into this string of games where we've had great pass rush. We've been creating turnovers. I think the next step in that progression, if we're going to have a chance to win these last few games, is to score some points on offense, or at least get some turnovers where we're putting the offense in the point of play where they have four plays where it's obvious scoring distance. So we have to put our offense. And I think that's the complementary football that we're constantly talking about. I mean, ideally, you want it to be 50-50, but I think we're at a point now where it needs to be more 70-30, and the defense is going to have to go above and beyond.
Is there some sort of coverage over the course of a game where if your DC sends the call in, like, oh, this is going to be a turnover play? Because I think that's going to be something that has to happen. If you care about such things, you can get a defensive touchdown for either team today, I think, at like plus 500 odds. But Are there calls that you used to get, on defense? You're like, oh, this is going to be a turnover, like just based on what the other team's doing, or where you feel like you can bait them into a throw, or where you think that just because it's third and long, whatever personnel package comes out, you feel like it's a turnover coming. How does that work?
I think it's more so about what you're seeing during the week. I mean, there have been a lot of times with the people I played against in the secondary at Carolina. If those guys are really out in practice and they're feeling it, and we're seeing them get a couple picks on those plays, when that play starts to come in, it was like, okay, we really got a shot here. We're talking to each other on the D-line like, okay, we got to keep contained. We can't let him break out, because if he pushes in the air, Deontay, KB, Charles Brown, Cersei, one of those guys are going to pick it off, and you put the ball in any of those guys' hands, it's definitely a chance to take it for 6. So there were definitely some calls like that, and I love talking about the story where Quan kind of called his own number, and you knew that was going to be a turnover. But some of these things, I mean, but that's the confidence that you have to play with, and I think that's the confidence our defense has to play with if we want to be put in a position to win this game today.
And by the way, knowing Quan, that's the most Quan thing ever. Is calling his own number on defense and then turning it into a pick.
Oh yeah,
that's outstanding on so many levels. If you're going against a team that's a lot like you, what is the biggest thing you can do in the huddle or on the sideline before a play to make sure that you're not getting out of yourself? Is it guys trying to stay rallied with each other? Is it guys trying to stay focused on what the game plan was? Or is it one of those where actually, your position coaches can actually give you some good things during the game that might give you that leg up?
I think this is the locker room game. I think this is where the guys who've been playing, the guys who've in the rotation, the guys who are the starters, got to before every drive, every time they step on the field, before every play, it's control what you can control. It's don't try to make the big play. It's do your 1 of 11, as you just mentioned earlier. It's if you're doing your job, it's going to put everybody else in that chain in the position to do their job. And that's the type of defense we have to play. And like we mentioned earlier, like how do you, if we know our defense has to score points, how do we do that while still playing inside of themselves? I think that with the team that we have and what we've shown, if we are playing inside of ourselves with the defensive play calls, with having one of the greatest defensive coaches of all time as a head coach, I think we are going to be going to naturally be in some of those positions to make some of those plays. But the DBs have to catch the ball. We have to scoop. We have to get on top of these fumbles as they're hitting the ground. But I do think that we will be in some positions today, not only because this is what I've seen from every other game, but if you look at Wake Forest's passing ability, like they're going to give us opportunities to make plays and tips and overthrows. You got to get those. So I think today it's going to be even a bigger spotlight on those types of plays.
This might have been your senior year, but that 2009 game, it was a Thursday night game at Blacksburg, was a 20-17 game. What do those feel like in the middle of it?
Oh, it was the most fun game ever. And I will say this, that I always joke with Al Mullins when I see him, because I have a picture on my phone where I'm sacking Tyrod and it's obvious fumble. And Ron Cherry, God bless his heart. If you don't know who Ron Cherry is, he's the guy who he's giving him the business call.
Illegal use of football.
Ron Cherry was
15 yards. Replay first down.
Most colorful guy of all time. So he says, well, if somebody had jumped on the ball, then I would have gave you the sack. And I was like,
what?
Yeah. He tells me this in the middle of the game. So, but no.
Where do they do that at?
Obviously, Virginia Tech, or anytime Ron Cherry's within 10 miles of a football game. But it's really a big deal. Like we had some really clutch plays that game, and I remember the forced fumble towards the end of the game with the tackle on Ryan Williams that put us in a position to hit the game-winning field goal. So it really does change the momentum of the game. And when you're playing defense and you're in control of the game, that's when you really start to know that, okay, if I can do my job, now I know I'm in a groove. I have my muscle memory. Now I'm starting to look for those opportunities to cause a turnover or to cause a play for loss. So it really like some of that's going to come naturally with just guys getting in the groove, and we can kind of see that. I mean, I talked about a couple of weeks ago when I saw the best pass rush move I've ever seen from the defensive line in North Carolina. Wow. So what happened? All of his teammates see that as like, hey, watch this. I can do that too. And we've seen an increase in that. So I think once one turnover starts and guys see that, hey, you can get these turnovers without being Superman, I think that's going to start a chain reaction. And I hope that happens early and often today.
I don't know what the stats are. I do know that across college and the NFL, when a team gets a defensive score, it's ridiculously high, a ridiculously high percentage of them winning the game. again, I think today might be one of those games where each team might find a defensive score, and North Carolina has shown a proclivity to make turnovers when they need them the most. I think today could absolutely be one of those days where you see both teams find ways to turn their opponent over. Something that Jason said that I want to talk about before we hit this next break. He's talking about starting field position being important. You referenced it a few minutes ago. Is there a way that you can maintain momentum in a game just with field position, right? Because you think about you think about games where there's not a lot of scoring, or maybe it's 3-0 or 3-3 or what have you. But that absolutely means that if you can flip the field on somebody, that's kind of like a score.
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep that going over the course of a game, when typically your success is evaluated by putting points on the board?
If your offense is not going to be moving the ball, it has to be a perfect marriage between your defense and your punter. Your punter has to be your MVP. He has to be accurate with the kicks. He has to be able to play some of the kicks, and that's what we've been able to see from our punter over the last few games. So that's going to have to be something. And defensively, we can't give up those big plays. We can't give up those drive changers, and we can't have the pass interference calls on 3rd and long where we have these guys shut out, and we're about to flip the field basically. So it's really disciplined football, discipline from the punter, discipline from the offense not to turn it over, and discipline from the defense not to allow the ball to be thrown over our head, or for their running back to be able to break a few tackles, and it's 88 out of the gate. So as long as we can do that, and we have that marriage between no turnovers, good position punting, and solid defensive football. Not saying that in the field position game you have to go out there and shut them out, but it's really the bend but don't break mentality. So as long as we can go out and do that, I think it'll really impact. And I played in a ton of games where field position is probably one of the sole reasons that we won the game. So it really, and I think no matter what, even if you have two good offensive teams, field position becomes even more important at that point.
Well, North Carolina's going to have to rely on some of their younger guys today to do that, because Adam Smith is reporting just right now. Just text him. You want to hit the sounder, AJ, the breaking news sounder, so we can get everybody prepared, so they make sure they take this in with you. That's right, breaking news. Adam Smith from inside Carolina on the ground there at in Winston-Salem, reporting that no Thad Dixon today. I know it was a stretch for him to get back, but Caleb Cost also going to be out. So North Carolina's going to rely on some young guys to have to play pass defense today. And thankfully, statistics would say that this would be a better game for younger defensive backs, just because Wake Forest does not pass the ball very well. But we've all seen that go sideways in North Carolina football over the years. So who knows what that does to your gut feelings. But yeah, again, Adam Smith from inside Carolina is saying that Caleb Cost out today. And again, Thad Dixon's still out. But who knows, maybe Dixon gets back for next week. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Talk a little bit about keys to the game, get into some tactics and what North Carolina might try to lean on to get some very highly valued and rare points today in Winston-Salem. He's EJ Wilson. I'm Joey Powell. AJ's on the board for us. You're listening to 97.9 The Hill, WCHL.
This is Matt Merletti, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live.
When you choose Pirelli, you're not just buying tires. You're investing in Italian engineering built for precision, performance, and safety. And now Chapel Hill Tire will install your set of Pirelli tires for free. That's expert installation, no extra charge. Drive with confidence, knowing your car is equipped with the tires trusted by luxury and performance drivers around the world. Chapel Hill Tire, where premium tires come with premium care. Stop by your nearest Chapel Hill Tire or visit chapelhilltire.com and drive happy, Chapel Hill.
Hey, Tar Heels, Adam Bishop here, senior pastor at New Hope Church in Durham and a big Carolina fan. Whether you're celebrating a win or down at halftime, you'll find Hope Community and a place to belong at New Hope. For over 20 years, we've been a diverse faith family where people build lasting friendships and make a difference together. There's a seat waiting for you. Visit newhopechurch.org. We can't wait to meet you, and God bless our Tar Heels.
I'm Hank Hill, and I sell propane and propane accessories. I think I've done pretty well.
Talking about that dang old 401k, man.
And that's Boomhauer. I used to get my financial advice from him.
Man, talking about that dang old Bitcoin and penny stocks, man.
Dang it, Boomhauer, that was terrible advice. Thankfully, John Stillman at Rosewood Wealth Management helped me fix my mess. If he weren't my friend, I'd hug him.
Dang old Hank and I ain't real, man, but Carolina Well Stewart is doing business as dang old Rosewood Wealth Management as a real registered investment advisor in the state of North Carolina, man.
Sundays are game days at Town Hall Grill. Enjoy family-friendly brunch, ice-cold drinks, and every NFL game on big screens with the sound on. Town Hall Grill, where brunch meets football and supports autism awareness in our community. Bring the family, enjoy great food and ice-cold drinks, and be part of a local spot that proudly supports autism awareness in our community. Town Hall Grill, where every Sunday feels like game day. Let's go Tar Heels.
For over 2 decades, there's been no better place online for the Tar Heel sports community than Inside Carolina. Now with the On3 network, you can still find us at InsideCarolina.com, but you will need to reactivate your subscription, and you can do so today for $1. Access in-depth daily content by joining the best community for Tar Heel sports around. The Tar Heels are your hometown team, and Inside Carolina is your hometown site for Tar Heel sports.
I'm Rebecca Johnson, and I'm part of the Will Johnson Building team. Our mission statement is to positively impact people, our clients, community, team members, and subcontractors. When we think about day-to-day decision-making, we want to go back to that mission statement. Are we making a positive impact? Our business is creating enduring spaces. We want to listen to our clients and their needs and create an enduring impact for them.
Go to willjohnsonbuildingcompany.com and see for yourself.
Are you working? What kind of work do you do?
You're listening to Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill WCHL, the flagship station for Tar Heel sports.
I'm fairly certain that you cannot ride a unicycle without looking like a dumbass.
I've never seen it done. So
these are the types of insight and philosophical nuggets that folks have come to expect from Inside Carolina Live. Yes, as we were discussing the vaunted Wake Forest mascot during the last break, and somehow a unicycle came up because apparently the Wake mascot, AJ, is that correct? The Wake mascot
yes,
rode a unicycle
Deacon,
at one point?
Instead of a motorcycle in the 1970s, started riding in on a unicycle.
That's great. That is absolutely great.
No.
What
it just gets worse the more you read.
It's incredibly groan worthy. It's groin grabbingly bad, EJ.
And again, the best part of the story is the reason we have the team named Demon Deacons. It's Duke's fault.
Oh, duh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
most
typical.
things are.
Yeah,
like global warming.
Yep.
Yeah,
like head lice.
Mm-hmm.
All Duke's fault.
Yeah.
Nobody's disagreeing with any of that. Appreciate you guys joining the show today. We talked to Jason Staples earlier, and he gave some of the insight as to what North Carolina may try to do on some schematic things today. I appreciate him enlightening me about why they might still be having the QB rolling the other way. It doesn't make a ton of sense, but yeah, I guess it's if it works for this particular QB, then I will relent and tip my cap and hope that it continues to work for them. Let's talk about some priorities today, EJ, because as we know, when you have a team that's kind of on the edge, confidence can be worth a lot.
Yeah.
So you want to see this team try to get confidence on both sides of the ball today. Offensively, what can they do to find some early rhythm also while taking care of the ball? Because they're not great in the red zone, which means, again, points at a premium. I've said 100 times today.
Yeah.
But Wake's worse in the red zone. So what can North Carolina do offensively to maybe exploit that little bit of an advantage, when they have the ball?
We have to take care of those red zone opportunities, as you just mentioned. If the defense can get them the ball in an advantageous position, we have to do that. I think it starts with figuring something out with the running game. I mean, we were so excited when Devon June kind of had those breakout games. It really made us think, okay, maybe it was kind of giving us hints of our backfields of pass. Like, we've been so running back rich over the last few seasons that I think that now that we're seeing a team that's I'll be nice and say a running back room that's kind of average. As we mentioned, there's no one guy who can really do everything. It's really it's not really by committee. It's by play. It's by game plan, what we're seeing right now. So if we can find someone who really has the attitude to go out there and get it done today, I think that'll put us in a good position. I do think Devon June, honestly, probably is the best guy to do that. But what does that look like when we're trying to pass the ball, when we're doing anything else? Does those liabilities show up? So if we can find a way to have over that at least around 4 yards a carry, a little bit over our season average, I think that'll do, because that'll also change one of our other weak spots on offense, which is our lack of plays. Like teams are almost doubling us up by the play count that we're having per game. So
Stanford did in the first half, completely doubled us up.
Exactly, and it was bad. It was, and I think that's one of the most embarrassing things that can happen on offense, constantly having those 3 and outs, constantly having those turnovers. So I think we need to do that, and we need to protect the ball. We can't have a bunch of interceptions. We can't put the ball on the ground. Points are at a premium, and those possessions are going to be precious. So I think as long as we can find some semblance of a running game, protect the ball, and just at least can we be 70-80% in the red zone today? Not asking to be perfect, but can we hit a high number in the red zone efficiency?
You know, it's weird that this team, when it's lost, it's been because they've had not just turnovers, but catastrophic turnovers. Like those situations where your first play of the game is a fumble deep in your own red zone, or you know, you're 3rd and long in your first possession and you have the ball taken out of your hand, essentially, you know, on your own 10. I mean, that can't happen. You can deal with a turnover here or there. And look, the other team's defense is allowed to be good. And I think Wake will be today. You just can't have them happen at the worst time in the worst spots. Right. And I do think, you know, this is one of those where if North Carolina wants to play a bleeding clock strategy, it could help them. Now you've got to keep moving the ball to do that, but you know, you don't need to be fast today. I mean, you could be slow as Christmas on crutches and still hang on to some good drives and make things work. It just, it doesn't need to be, you know, snap, go. That's a way that you can actually probably help yourself. But to your comment, you've got to make it count when you get inside the 20s. You know, when you get down to that part of the field and you do get into the red zone, you've got to make the other team pay, because, you know, in a game that might end 14-13, how big is that? You know, how big is a touchdown versus a field goal? I'm sitting here thinking about some other positional places where North Carolina might be able to make plays. Is if they could continue to control the line of scrimmage and limit that run game, I think that might bode well for the offense not having so much pressure on them. This is a game where you never want North Carolina's offense to have to play from behind. They've been garbage at that all year. And in a game like today, where, again, points are going to be hard to come by, you'd like to find a way, like we said earlier, with getting some momentum earlier and controlling that line of scrimmage so that you can suck the life out of the clock, for lack of a better term. Looking at this game, is it really a must win? Like we bust Tommy's chops a lot, because, you know, a lot of times he's quick to say things are a must win, but I'm looking at this game and I'm thinking, man, you know, your last two games are going to be against rivals that hate you, but I feel like this might be the easier sell or the easier matchup out of the last two, just out of wild card things. Is this a must win in your mind?
I don't think it's a must win in a stake for any standings or anything like that, because as we talked about, I don't think this is not. I think this will be some semblance of a successful finish to the season, even if we don't go to a bowl game, if we can show well. But just talking about giving ourselves a chance against, let's be honest, 2 teams that we're playing at the end of the year. One, as to your point, they do hate us, and 2, they're probably better teams and more talented rosters than we have right now. So I think winning this game against an in-state rival is going to give us the confidence that we need to have the belief to take that into the preparation, to take that into the end of the season, to finish strong, to put ourselves in a position for a bowl game. And I think if we do find a way to win 2 out of these 3 and go to a bowl game, I mean, that's better than what any of us could have hoped for, especially after the TCU game. So, and as far as team morale, I think it's a must win. But I think if we go out here and play well, I still think that we'll be It's crazy as a Carolina fan. We're kind of happy with improvement, but I mean that's just where we are at this point in the season.
Yeah.
So I would like to see him win. If we want to have a chance to finish strong, I do agree that this is a must win.
When I'm looking at North Carolina special teams, which again I think they're going to be more vital today than they have been at any point in time during the season. You look at their punt return, and typically it's Will Hardy back there, and I think they let him return it because he's usually sure at catching them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's not worried about a guy muffing a punt. Now, as soon as I say that, he'll muff one today. But do you think they might try to change that up and put somebody back there that can return the ball? I know Caleb Cost was, I believe, one of those guys earlier in the season, but do you still try to be who you've been and just make sure that you do catch the ball, or do you try to steal some yards and put somebody else back there, or maybe throw in a different sort of wrinkle in what your typical punt return call is? How do you approach today? Is it more about staying where your feet are, or is it more about trying to get cute and maybe you can steal some yards? I
think that basically from what we've seen with this coaching staff, I don't foresee them putting any wrinkles in there or complicating the game anymore for some players who are really fighting against some things this year. But I do think that early on in the game, maybe that first punt return, because the thought has to be, okay, if we muff a punt here, they score, we still have time in this game to come back if we try this out maybe in the first quarter. But you have to get somebody back there who could make a game changer. We need to steal the yards and find the hidden yards wherever we can. And I think punt return is some of those biggest opportunities where hopefully we're not doing much kick returning today, but on those punt returns, it's going to be vital. Get a guy in there. Cause I mean, I'm not talking about a 30, 40 yard return, right. A 10 to 20 yard punt return is an absolute great return.
Most punt returns now are just fair catch. That's it.
Exactly.
There's not a lot of run backs.
If you can get a couple of those, and we're controlling the ball on defense, and we're just inching closer and closer. And like Doc Staples said, I mean, a field goal could realistically win this game. I have no issue with seeing this thing at 3-0. I think I might rather enjoy that. So,
you sick bastard.
I'm a sicko. I'm a sicko in the sickest of ways. But I do think that we have to switch it up a little bit on punt return. I don't know if it's, I would love to see them try a reverse or something like that. But in order for a reverse to work, you've had to show some sort of success. So I think that if we can get some of that success, some 10, 15, 20 yard, maybe even a 30 yard punt return, I think that's going to bode well for our chances to win.
Who needs to step up today? I mean, you've got a couple of guys that I know that you like, and you mentioned Simpson earlier, and I think he's been nice. Kamori House has really settled in as a starter and has done well to fill the middle of the field. Who needs to be that guy today?
I think that it has to be, I'm going to look towards the offense. I think it has to be somebody on the offensive line has to take charge today. So we need to identify a guy that we can consistently run behind, or a couple of guys we can consistently run behind on the offensive line, because I think that if our defense plays a normal game from what we've seen these last few games, and we find a way to get some of those rushing yards or giving Gio some extra time, I think that's going to be the most important thing. But I mean, with Caleb Cost being out, with Thaddeus Dixon being out, I think we're looking right back square at Marcus Allen. He's probably going to be the defensive back with the most playing time this year, the most quote unquote experience. So I think that he's going to have to go out there and going to have to make some plays. He's going to have to make his tackles. He's going to have to avoid penalties. And I honestly think we need a turnover or a big play somewhere from him somehow today.
I'd love to see Jaden Patterson continue to impress.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's done really well this year. I think he's got a lot of physical skills that can really, really help him. I'd love to see the guys just continue to anticipate throws really well.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things I think about. I think it was Kamori House was it House or Simpson that had the interception last week? Either whoever the linebacker was that sank in coverage. I mean, he read that perfectly, like just read the quarterback's eyes and knew, where that ball was going, and it already kind of had an idea in his mind of where he was going to go with the return. I'd love to see them be able to anticipate that some today against a quarterback that has struggled this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not trying to bag on, the guys that Wake has, but the stats are what they are. And it's like I said earlier, it's very similar to what North Carolina has had to deal with. Between Simpson and House, I think those two guys, I'd also love to continue to see those interior linemen on the defense.
Mm-hmm.
I think today's really important for them. You mentioned Isaiah Johnson, Leroy Jackson, Mims,
mm-hmm.
Dontre Robinson. They've got to stop Claiborne today for North Carolina to have a legitimate chance, because
mm-hmm.
that's Wake's kryptonite in this situation, is that they do have that kind of game-changing runner. They do have a guy that's incredibly reliable, and that means North Carolina has to eat double teams. That means North Carolina has to absolutely win the point of attack and win the line of scrimmage on defense to keep him from doing what it is that Wake wants to do offensively. I'm a little worried at having, missing costs today too, but Marcus Allen's playing a lot of games. He's continuing to do better. I think they're getting the most out of him that they can. I know, there was a guy sitting behind us last week at the game that every time Stanford threw a quick slant, they blame Marcus Allen. But on a quick slant, you don't have leverage. Your job is just make the tackle.
Yeah, it is
There's
what
nothing
it
to
is.
do about it.
Yeah.
So I think having Marcus Allen's experience back there, assuming he does get the token, PI call, shout out to Buck Sanders. I think there's going to be a chance today for somebody on that defensive back four to make a name for themselves by reading a bad pass or reading the quarterback or doing what they've been taught this week in film study and changing the game with one play. I don't think it has to be a pick six, but man, it would be nice. I don't think it has to be a strip sack and a scoop and score, but man, it would be nice. And by the same token, if North Carolina were to give up one of those on offense, man, that puts even more pressure on the defense to go out and get one. I know you weren't as much of a vulture as some of the guys on your team as far as stat picking, but is there a guy today from North Carolina's defense that you think is going to be that guy? We've seen, again, best defensive lineman in the history of football named Melkart. He's had 2 strip sacks over the last 2 weeks. Is that the guy? Is there another guy, or is there somebody completely off the board that just today just shows up and is him?
I think Melkart, I kind of expect this from him at this point, but who's going to be our Channing Tatum? Who's going to make a name for themselves? Who's really going to go out here and be the gambit for our defense today? And I think I'm feeling a little Mims action today. I think he can be an absolute disruptor. We talk about how they're kind of kryptonite. Their strength is their running back position, but if we can absolutely neutralize him and make him a non-factor and make them have to throw the ball, that leans into one, our strength with our pass rush, and 2, their weakness with their lack of ability to pass the ball. So I think if we have a big game from him, it doesn't have to be a lot of tackles. He could be the MVP of the game today without even making the tackles. If he's eating those double teams, if he's knocking that center and those guards 2 yards in the backfield and putting them on their butt and making the running back have to bow out or making that puller have to bow out, I think that gives our running backs our linebackers House Simpson chance to run downhill. And when they're running downhill, they're some of the best they're some of the best linebackers. So I do think that we talked a lot early in the season about talent, but maybe some of those talent issues we saw were inexperience because these guys have really come together and started playing for each other. So if Mims can be that disruptor and just really lead that string of defensive linemen that we have in the rotation, I think this is going to be a big game.
If you can at least occupy your man today on the front four, you're more useless than a toothpick at a meth lab.
Exactly.
I need you to show up today and fit gaps, occupy double teams, and let the defensive ends do what they're supposed to do.
Oh yeah.
And then to your point, if you want to collapse the pocket, great. That's even better.
That's even better. Yeah.
We'll allow it. All right. Take our last break. We'll be right back, and we'll put in kind of the final word. We'll give you some projections of how we think this game might play out today. Again, I'm just not seeing points, but we'll get more detail in that in just a second. Appreciate you being here. Also want to make sure that we give some due propers to our friends at Johnny T-Shirt. Again, if Johnny T-Shirt does not have it, you don't need it.
Exactly.
JohnnyT-shirt.com on East Franklin Street in Chapel Hill. North Carolina's had quite a stand of great home sports days recently. If you're here, go buy Johnny T-Shirt. I'm telling you, they'll be glad to see you. When you go and say, hey, I've got this extra code, they'll know you're an Inside Carolina premium subscriber, and they'll treat you extra well. They might even give you a high five. Who knows? But we appreciate Johnny T-Shirt for sponsoring this here show and appreciate you guys for listening. We'll be right back for our last segment of the day. Tar Heels and Deacons kicking off at 4:30 on the CW. You're listening to Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill, WCHL.
Yo, this is Denora Cersei, Carolina alum, and you're listening to Inside Carolina Live. Let's go, baby.
When the leaves fall, the roads get slick. Make sure your car is ready for every twist and turn with Michelin tires and free installation from Chapel Hill Tire. Now through December 9th, get an $80 rebate card after online submission with the purchase of 4 new Michelin passenger or light truck tires. And with Chapel Hill Tire's free expert installation on Michelin tires, a $120 value, that's $200 in total savings for you. With 12 area locations, visit chapelhilltire.com today and drive happy.
Hi, this is Ely from Alma's Jewelers. The flooding in Eastgate forced us to adjust, but I'm so happy to say we are back right here in our original Eastgate Crossing location. Our showroom is refreshed, sparkling, and ready to welcome you. Whether you're celebrating a milestone, shopping for something special, or just want to stop by and say hello, we are here. Thank you for supporting us throughout it all. Alma's Jewelers, proud to be part of this community, now open in Eastgate Crossing.
Rams Corner on 431 West Franklin has wall-to-wall screens, so you never miss a play. Daily specials on food and drinks, local spirits with a Chapel Hill twist. A space for everyone, students, alumni, locals, and visitors. Enjoy more than good food and good drinks. Create memories from last-minute victories to late-night laughs, where the community comes together and where every day feels like game day. Come for the food, stay for the energy, and leave as part of the Rams Corner family. 431 West Franklin Street.
Will you stifle yourself and listen to old Uncle Archie? Only a dingbat would manage his own money there. You'll flush it down the toilet, then some meathead wants to marry your little Goyle, and you ain't got the money to pay for the wedding. So don't kill your chickens before they cross the road there, huh? Call John Stillman at Rosewood Wealth Management there.
Listen up, you meathead. Archie Bunker isn't real and wasn't compensated for this. But Carolina Wealth Stewards, doing business as Rosewood Wealth Management, is a real registered investment advisor in the state of North Carolina.
This is Jeff Denny with Generator Supercenter of the Triangle. We are the #1 Generac residential installer in North America. We have grown our footprint here in Chapel Hill and Durham and Carrboro. The purpose of having a generator is to have backup power when you need it, so it has to be ready at all times. We've had customers wanting a new generator, and then customers that already have a generator that want us to service it, maintain it, fix it. Go to GeneratorSuperCenterOfTheTriangle.com. That's GeneratorSuperCenterOfTheTriangle.com.
Hey, Tar Heels, Adam Bishop here, senior pastor at New Hope Church in Durham and a big Carolina fan. Whether you're celebrating a win or down at halftime, you'll find Hope Community and a place to belong at New Hope. For over 20 years, we've been a diverse faith family where people build lasting friendships and make a difference together. There's a seat waiting for you. Visit newhopechurch.org. We can't wait to meet you, and God bless our Tar Heels.
You're listening to Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill WCHO, the flagship station for Tar Heel sports.
Dwight Schrute is about to go on a sales call in this episode of The Office. Appreciate you guys being here. Last segment of the show, Inside Carolina Live. I'm Joey Powell. With me, EJ Wilson. And we have had fun working with y'all today. Hope you guys have enjoyed the show. Hope you will make it back again next week for the Duke game. Not sure what time that'll be because, well, the ACC sucks.
Yep.
But they have put a hold on announcing the time. So sometime on Sunday, in between the Charles Kuralt show and some whatever time Joel Osteen comes on the air, there'll be an announcement.
Good night, Chuck.
Yeah, that'd work. Yeah, so I mentioned to the folks in the chat, and shout out to everybody who's watching on the IC YouTube channel. We'll take a question or two to fill out this last segment if we want to. So at NSM-GHC, I don't even know what that is, but maybe it's a license plate. Question here, and I want to throw it at you, EJ, and see how you feel about it. What is the best type of passing attack to use against Wake? Quick screens, throwing to our backs in the backfield. I think it's a good question. I think because Wake is so good in pass defense, I think the answer has to be get it to somebody in space and let them do it as opposed to trying to beat them over the top. What say you?
I would say it has to be a combination of that and some quick slants. I would say the quick slant game and the quick passing game really just to get Gio in the rhythm. I think that the screen game and the quick screen game is really going to be dependent on how well we're running the ball just to kind of set those plays up. But if we can get, and I've seen we've tried some of those tunnel screens out to the wide receivers throughout the year that haven't really worked well. But I think if we can execute plays like that, and to your point, get some of our playmakers and athletes in space, I think that we can really make something happen. But I don't think that we need to look to be going deep down the field for a couple of reasons. For one, their secondary is really kind of the strength of their defense. And two, our offensive line is our weakness, and we don't want to have Gio back there just patting the ball.
What's the key on situations like today? And again, flip side for North Carolina's defense against Wake, how can North Carolina's ends in Tyler Thompson and Melkart Abajadu, who've been just hair on fire recently, how do they play ball without overrunning the quarterback?
I think you really have to collapse that pocket and have lane discipline. I think that it needs to be sort of a uncalled game towards him. So back when I was playing, Robert Quinn was a speed guy. I was more of a power rusher. So my most successful rush that I've ever had has been going upfield, long arming, coming back inside. Well, that worked perfectly with a guy like Robert Quinn because he's flaring off the edge, and a lot of his sacks are going to be chased down sacks from the backside simply because of the side that he played on.
Thompson's the same way.
Exactly. So I think their chemistry works well, and I think that's going to be successful for them because we have guys who really are. They don't try to play outside of what they've done. I've seen that Melkart, he's really relied on his patient power rush, just doing the right things. He's not a guy that's going to blaze you around the end, but honestly, I think what he does is a more consistent form of rushing because not only does it travel well, if you're playing against a quarterback who can threaten you to get out of the pocket, I think his style of rush plays well against that. So very confident in that. And then you got a guy like Thompson, who's a little bit more bendy, who I think in that situation would be the guy who's going to be doing those speed rushes. So as long as they've kind of worked that out, and I think that with them being players at the level that they're playing in this late into the season, they have developed that chemistry. So I think that's the best way really for them to really focus on putting pressure on the quarterback, but not breaking contain and giving some of those scramble yards up.
I think it's going to be fascinating today, and Texas A&M has taken the lead over South Carolina. They've scored.
Excuse me?
They've scored 28 points since halftime, and South Carolina has not scored.
Womp womp.
Yeah, so South Carolina are who we thought they were.
All is right in the world again.
So we had good South Carolina in the first half, and then typical South Carolina.
Well,
in the
that just
second
shows you
half.
the universe does not like the words "good" and South Carolina being put together.
Neither do I.
Nobody
Fair.
does. It's just
Fair.
it's not a real thing. I'm sitting here thinking about. I'm thinking how North Carolina might be able to, if they're able to get Ashford on the ground some today. I'm also starting to think how that might get into his head. Can you get into a quarterback's head if he's not a great quarterback to start?
I think you can get into a quarterback's head even if he's not a great quarterback. And I think that's one of the things that make great quarterbacks great. With a guy like him who's not had any success this season, I think he's going to start to see ghosts and hear footsteps if we start getting after him early. And it's because of how I mentioned how we rush and the type of pressure that we get. We're getting pressure up front in his face. We're getting pressure coming off the edges. So I think we can absolutely change the complexity of the game. And that's one of the things earlier that I failed to mention when we were talking about how can they control this game and create some of those plays without playing outside of themselves. And part of that is getting hits on the quarterback, getting sacks, and constantly putting the defensive tackles constantly putting those interior linemen in his lap. I think that's going to force him to try to make some plays and try to make some throws that he's just not capable to make right now. So that's another way of creating havoc while that's doing your job.
What does a road mean? What does a road win mean in November for a team like this that, again, still trying to find themselves, still trying to define the program, still trying to define who they want to be, not just this year, but in the future? How big is a road win, against a team that hates you?
I think they have to approach games like this with a championship level mentality. I think you have to go, especially where this team's been, with you having a chance to finish strong and having a chance to say that. And I know for me personally, as an alumni, it'd be great to say, yeah, we may have had a bad season, but we're still the best team in the state. If we finish out these last 3 games, that's something that we'll at least be able to maybe say in jest, but there may be a little bit of truth to it as well. So I think that this is so far this season, this is the biggest game of the season for so many reasons. It's a road game. It's a game in November. It's a conference game. So this is the most important game. And I know we say take it week by week. This game is the most important, but this can really be a tone setter, because this will be, what type of confidence our defense will have if we're able to win this low scoring game. If it is a 3-0 or the magical 4-2 score that I think all the three of us want to see so very bad, I think that really instills a type of confidence into a defense that you can't really get any other way.
Oh, what's crazy, and I talked with WCHL's Michael Coe and Brighton McConnell earlier this week on their show on Monday night about UNC football. With Wake being who they are, North Carolina can't overlook anybody anymore, and I think that there's a chance here to really prove, that the caveats don't matter on defense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think one of the things that we've had to say is, yeah, North Carolina's defense was good, but they were playing against blank.
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina's defense was good, but they were playing against blank. I mean, Wake's got wins against some good teams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they did get skull dragged by Florida State, but they've got some wins against some good teams. They're also a program that is trying to establish themselves because they have a new coach and they have a blue million new players on that roster that were not with them, last year.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an opportunity for North Carolina again to beat a team that looks like them, not just from a scheme standpoint, but from a program DNA standpoint. And I think if they can find some way to, like you said, get a win based on defensive prowess and your stinginess and your willingness to bow up against a rival in their backyard, I do think that's probably worth more than maybe the 2 wins against Stanford and Syracuse. You're still trying to find things to build. You're still trying to find things to show proof of concept. And I think this is probably that next degree.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree?
I agree. I definitely agree. I mean, this is something that becomes infectious in the team. We talked about the new fourth quarter highlight tape, how that can kind of new fourth quarter highlight tape play that we saw on special teams last week. Things like that. I think this is going to be even more infectious because, I mean, when you have that type of confidence, that's when we're starting what I was alluding to earlier. When you feel like it's just muscle memory and you're constantly putting yourself in the right position, you're going to have the confidence to go out there and try to let your athleticism speak, to try to play loose and play free and just take the game as it comes. And I think we should be able to put ourselves in that position if we start off playing well. So that type of lockdown, gritty defense, these are the type of games that I love. And if you're a defensive player, whether you're a defensive lineman or a cornerback, you love these games as well.
So we've talked about what we think things could look like and what North Carolina may have to do. All right, put it on paper. Tell me, how do you think this game plays out? You can give me a score projection if you want, but I really want you to tell me who the standout player is on each side of the ball and why they're the standout player. What have they done to earn that today when the game actually kicks off?
I think I'm going to go back to the defensive side of the ball. I think it's going to be Mims, or maybe not Mims, but it's going to be a defensive tackle who's going to go out there and set the tone. I don't want to focus in too much on the starters because I think the guys who come in the rotation are proving that they can be gamers as well, and the play really doesn't drop off when they come. So I think someone in that interior lineman, and of course because of experience and just raw talent and ability, I have to look at Mims first on that side of the ball. Offensively, I really think it's going to have to be one of those running backs, and that game doesn't necessarily look like a bunch of carries, but we need to see a large per carry average. I want to see him have a couple catches, but most importantly, I want to see something in pass pro. I want to see someone else other than Goss show that they can come in there and pass protect and give Gio a little bit more time.
Does a couple of chunk plays do it for North Carolina today? If they, like Jason said, 40 yards, so I want to stick with that.
Mm-hmm.
If North Carolina can get, 3 40-yard plays today, is that enough?
I think 3 40-yard plays. I think that gives us about a touchdown lead. I honestly think that. I mean, whether we're going to get that or not, I don't know. But 3 40-yard plays, one, is going to be something that we haven't really seen from this offense yet. So we talk about confidence and momentum. I mean, that's going to give the offense more momentum, and you're going to start to see those offensive linemen dig in a little bit more and want to impose their will on some of their plays. And maybe we see a few more wrinkles when we have a few bit more of those big play downs, as we like to say, if it's a second and short or something like that. So I definitely think that can change the tide just as big as the defensive touchdown could for us today.
It's dumb how different this season has gone in a couple of different ways for North Carolina. Again, it's almost been like a tale of 3 months. And I think today is absolutely the day that could be a culture-defining win. I know it does nothing in the grand scheme of things. It's not a division championship. It's not a conference championship. It's not even a top 25 matchup. But getting a win on the road in November against a decent Wake team that's also looking for the same thing that you are, I think would continue to make people not only take notice, but would continue to get people to buy back into what the staff is selling. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is to have buy-in from people, not just inside the Kingdom Football Center, but from people outside for the future of this program, because it helps recruiting. It helps dollars coming into for your NIL payroll. It helps all of these things. And so while it may just look like a regular roadie against Wake Forest, it absolutely means something today. I do think, and I don't think he's going to all of a sudden turn into, some crazy play caller, but I do think you might see something today from the offense that you haven't seen yet, just with regards to a play call or two. I don't think it has to be, double flea flicker, backside George reverse. I don't think it has to be any of that kind of stuff, but I do think there will be some stuff today that we probably have not seen yet on film. And I do think the screen game could be it. You saw what DeMond June was able to do against Syracuse in just that one screen pass. And he's got, I think he had two offensive linemen and a slot receiver out in front of him there. So, I mean, that's not like you've got an entire convoy blocking for you. And he was just fast enough and elusive enough to make way for him. Give me a score, EJ. What do you think? What do you think today's final looks like?
I'm thinking
again, total at 38.5.
I'm thinking this is going to be, I think it's going to be 17-9 because I do think we're going to see a defensive touchdown from somebody. I do think that. And I think that even though these offenses have been struggling, I think either one of these defenses is going to put their offense in the position to have maybe an easy score. And of course, being Mr. Optimistic, I'm hoping that 17-9 goes our way.
And so you're projecting a Tar Heel win. All right. What the hell? I'll do it too. I like North Carolina today. I think they do get a defensive score. I think North Carolina also finds something from their running backs that they haven't had yet. I don't think that it's big plays, but I do think it's something in the passing game that we haven't seen before that not only makes it easier for Gio Lopez, but I think it makes it to where these guys can show their varying skill sets, both Hall and Gauss, and then also DeMond June. I just think that there's got to be something they can do there from a play calling standpoint to capitalize on what aggression Wake might show and just make them pay for it. Make them overrun the play for a change. So give me Tar Heels 20, give me Wake 14. Still playing the under, which is again a low number, but man, who knows? We'll see. But this does feel like a Bill Belichick special because all he wants is one more point than the guys across from him.
Exactly.
I want to make sure everybody is tuned into what's going to happen tomorrow. We'll always have the day after from Tommy and Buck and Jason. So make sure you guys are checking that out. Also be sure that you're looking out for us. As soon as we know a time for the Duke game, we'll pass it along for you. But if you're going to be in the Bowls lot next week, make sure you come see us. Again, we'll start 3 hours before kickoff and we'll have some fun. I think Matt Merletti will be joining us again for that game. So come by and say hello. Again, he's the best looking cast member that we have here at IC. So come say hi to Matt. We appreciate Johnny T-Shirt for sponsoring the show. They always do such an amazing job. It's your place for Carolina gear on Franklin Street, online at johnnytshirt.com. But Earl, I appreciate you, man. For EJ Wilson, for AJ, for making everything work and all the buttons flash properly. Appreciate Kenny Dyke getting in here and getting things set up for us early. And shout out to everyone who joined us live. We appreciate you being a part of our show and us being a part of yours. We'll talk to you next time on Inside Carolina Live on 97.9 The Hill WCHL.
It's time for the Chapel Hill Tire Drive Happy Drive of the Game. In a defensive battle that had UNC tied 3-3 at halftime against Stanford, the offense opened the second half with an impressive 12-play, 7 minutes, 72-yard touchdown drive to take the lead and set up another Tar Heel win.
3rd and 12 off the 20. 3-3 the score. Green goes in motion from right to left. Lopez in the shotgun will throw. Looking to Goss left side. Hit as he throws the wheel route. Caught! And touchdown, Carolina! It's Goss bulleting to the front left corner of the end zone for 6.